it's such a pleasure for me to meet you at WordCamp Brighton and to know something about your WordPress Multisite story. How have you got involved in WordPress development at all?
Oh, hi there. Well, yeah, it was nice to meet you there too as well. I really enjoyed the WordCamp. I've been working with WordPress for, I would say, around 12 years, maybe a bit longer. And I've been the head of technology here at Snack Media for around 10 years since we were a small startup. Now we have around sort of 30 or 40 employees working for us. So it's been quite a journey. We're a sports company, so sports media. A lot of that centres around blogging, hence the sort of heavy involvement with WordPress. So we're basically a digital media company. We reach around 30 million sports fans every month, and we pretty much position ourselves that we connect sports fans with brands. So we have a large audience, and we work with brands to get them in front of that sports audience.
So do you do that with WordPress Multisite?
Well, for a long time it had been just with WordPress. So I've had experience of multi-site from previous projects when multi-site was still in its very early days. But more recently we've done a couple of interesting projects with multi-site since the beginning of this year. So I'm going to tell you about one of those projects.
I would love to know.
Yeah.
Do you have some specific project on your mind that you would like to share about it? What was the project like? Objectives?
Sure. So the main project I wanted to talk about today was the sports predictor game that we built based on WordPress Multisite. So this is a game for football fans where they can predict the scores and the outcomes of every football match, and they will score points when they get the result correct, and they score points when they get the correct outcome of the game, so whether it was a win or a draw or that type of thing. It's been quite a big project, but it relates quite a lot to your presentation at WordCamp, because it's really that software as a service type of setup where it's a white label product, and then using multi-site we can roll out a site per client and brand it individually for them.
So whom do you sell your product?
Well, we started this in the World Cup in the summer, and now we're continuing for the Premier League season this year. So for the World Cup one, the first client to come on board was a big pan-European network of TV channels. They have 7 channels in 6 different countries and 5 different languages. So they're quite a big and challenging client for the first use of the white label product. And then we also had a couple of clients here in the UK as well, using the same technology.
What kind of software do they get?
What they get is essentially the game itself. So the prediction game, which lists all of the football matches and allows people to the user signs in, registers, and then they can predict on the games. The user can also create mini leagues where they invite friends, family, colleagues and things to join in the game and play with them. Exactly, like that type of thing where they can play amongst themselves. So they're also competing against every other user who's playing the game, but they can also compete individually against each other in a smaller league as well. And then the client also has options around different game mechanics. So they can choose, first of all, which football competition they want to make the game centre around. So it would be the domestic league of that country, or the World Cup, or Champions League, that type of thing. And then they can also choose a structure for how they want to award prizes. So some clients have done things where they choose streaks of 8 games, and if a user was to predict correctly on all 8 of those games, they win the prize. And there's also things like prizes for monthly or weekly leagues as well. So it depends on the client how they want, partly their budget for prizes, whether they've got, hundreds of thousands of euros or just a smaller amount of money and things like that, the type of company they are, and then, the game mechanic that they decide on depends on how they want to promote the game.
What were the specific reasons to choose WordPress Multisite?
Well, I guess the sort of requirements for the minimum viable product were, beyond the game mechanics itself, were things like the user needs to be able to log in and register. We need to be able to integrate a single sign-on. So, for example, if someone has an account with one of these TV channels, they can sign in through their existing account, and we use something like OpenAuth to authenticate that user on our side. It needed to be able to be branded per client. It also needed to be translated into different languages, which WordPress does very well, and being able to set locality, time zone, that type of thing. And also we needed the ability to add extra pages that weren't part of the game itself, like things like an FAQ, game rules, contact us, that type of thing. So WordPress has all of those functionalities built in. So WordPress for us was an obvious choice. It's also a technology we're very comfortable using and have been using for a long time, so we're very familiar and happy to use it. Multisite specifically was really because it's a white label product that we wanted to be able to roll out for multiple clients. Every time a new client joins, we can spin up a new site for them, we can brand it for them, and we can also translate it into their language, set it up so that all the times and everything relate to their time zone. So multi-site seemed like a really good choice for that.
So what, did I get that right? When a new client comes to you, you prepare a new subdomain for him or top-level domain, right?
Exactly, yeah. So
make branding according to his guidelines, right? And give him instances for his players, for users.
Exactly, yeah. So, for example, a company would approach us for the game, and they have some sort of campaign they want to run around it, whether they're monetizing it through advertising or sponsorship or that type of thing. Then we would spin up a new site within our multi-site environment. All the game mechanics and everything is instantly available. We can set some options for that client, so we can set options like the competition that they want to, the football competition they want to follow, stuff around the prizes and game mechanic, and then we can also set up things like their branding, so branded header and footer for the site, advertising banners for the site, even down to things like when we send automated emails to each user telling them how many points they've scored that week and things, we can include client branding in those email templates and things as well.
It sounds very interesting, but have you met any obstacles while developing such kind of product with WordPress Multisite?
Well, yeah, obviously with a big project like that, there's always going to be some obstacles.
True.
Luckily for us, not many of them really related to multi-site specifically. There's, as a developer, you'll always face problems trying to code something new and something big like that. But there was a couple of things that related to multi-site specifically. So a couple of examples is cron. So obviously WordPress has its own native cron. For us, we don't tend to use that. We would normally replace that with a server-side cron so that we have ultimate control over it. And with multi-site, we found that we had to trigger a cron per site. So that was a small obstacle, but we easily found a solution for it. We used the WP CLI. And wrote a few bash scripts and things like that, and then handled all the cron for the multiple sites.
So that obstacle was like...
I'd say it was small. In terms of the overall development, that was really a small obstacle. And then there was another one as well. So the way that the multi-site handles users is that they're all still grouped together in one main users table.
But you have different clients that have their own clients that are not related to those sites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have some clients where they want all of the users, even like the TV network one, for example. They have 7 different brands and 7 separate instances of multi-site. But they want all of their users to be able to compete together amongst each other. So people from the German TV channel competing with the Austrian and the Czech and Belgian and so on. With some clients, they obviously don't want their users to be in that pool with another client's users. So we needed a way of not only separating the users per site, but also grouping them together in some cases as well. But we did find some custom systems to identify which users belong to which site.
How did you do these? Custom fields for like numbering users by site?
On registration, so depending on which site they register through, we then create a user meta which knows which site they joined through and which site they belong to. But then we also have some way of saying these 6 sites are part of a group. So we can actually group them together as well.
And like hierarchy to it.
Exactly, that type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. So they seemed like sort of problems at the time, especially because this was only really our second major project using multi-site. So some of these things we weren't used to, coming from just a straight WordPress developer background, but they were easy to find the answers to, and actually we found working with multi-site just as easy as we do working with normal WordPress.
Yeah, that's good, because me too, and many developers find working with WordPress Multisite as easy as WordPress. That's why it's so easy to make projects like that. How do you feel for other sports companies that are not your clients right now? Is this a good choice to pick a software project like this for their businesses?
I think so. I think if it's the right use case, I wouldn't like to give too much advice to our competitors and things like that, but I think for anyone, even outside of sports as well, some of the use cases that I've seen in your presentation at WordCamp and elsewhere, you can see where it's very, very appropriate. So I think for something like this, where it's a white label product that needs to be branded for various different clients and things like that, that's a great use case for it. Also, for things like networks of websites where you've got, one publisher, but they have, let's say, 100 different websites within that publisher. They all work from the same theme, they all work from the same plugins. If you can make that all work from a single code base, then you've only got one code base to maintain. And that, for me, is the beauty of multi-site, is that instead of maintaining 10 different code bases for 10 different websites, you can maintain one. And those websites all have very similar functionality and look and feel and things. It makes a lot of sense.
So I just want to make it clear. Did Snack Media started as a small startup, made a software as a service with WordPress Multisite, and grown up right now to 40 people working here?
No. We started really as a blogging platform.
Right.
So it started with one flagship website, footballfancast.com, which originally was a news and podcasting platform for football. And at the time when I joined, the website was being sort of outsourced, and it was built on Drupal platform. When I joined, they wanted a major overhaul of the website, and they needed someone who was more full-time to come and work with them and things. So at that point, I convinced them to move everything over to WordPress. So we were really working with single instances of WordPress. At that point, I built a few more sites, and we started to sort of build out from being a single site into a network. Right now, we have about, I think, 40 sites that we own and operate, and then we supply advertising and technology services to around another 350 websites who are mostly WordPress. I'd say around 80% of them use WordPress, and then the others are a mixture of forums and other different types of software.
I see. That's an interesting example of building business with WordPress Multisite.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you know, it's our second time using it. We've had a previous client, which is one of these networks of websites. They had around 100 websites for various different teams, and they wanted to upgrade the technology, and they were keen to move to a WordPress platform as well. So we also suggested Multisite to these guys and helped them to build out their network and migrate everything into multi-site setup. And what's been really good about that is, again, a single code base to maintain. So you make an improvement and you only have to deploy it once to one instance. The rest is sort of all the other sites benefit from that. And also it gave them the ability to easily spin up a new site.
So how long does it take to spin up a new website for the new client in Snack Media?
Well, it depends a lot on the website. We do a lot of custom work as well, so some of our stuff is outside of WordPress. It really depends, but I think within these multi-site environments, like the example I was just giving, it's very, very quick. You could do 5 in a day, you know. If you have everything ready, all the branding and the assets and everything ready, you could do it very, very quickly. For standard WordPress installs, it's probably just a bit longer because you have to set up things like a virtual host and more configuration on the server side per site. And then for custom jobs, like we work with Professional Football Association, things like that. Those type of jobs can take, you know, between weeks and months, depending on the build.
And here 5 a day maybe?
With the multi-site, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, the example that I was giving for that network, as long as they had assets, yeah, they could spin up a site within an hour or two. It's really just setting the options, testing everything works, and away you go.
How your clients do feel about using WordPress Multisite now?
Well, our clients were incredibly happy in both examples. So the example I gave of the network and also the main project that I was talking about, the predictor game. So for the predictor game, the client was very, very happy with the way it all operated and ran. We met all of their requirements. I think during the World Cup, we supported around 10,000 players of the game across the 7 different TV channels. Since then, we've launched for 2 new clients at the beginning of the Premier League season, and also we're continuing to develop the product. So the white label product has already had major improvements in the last few weeks, which were based on our learnings from the World Cup. So some of the features that the World Cup client wanted, we've now built in as proper options into the white label offering and sort of expanded on that, and we'll continue to do so. So it's an actually ongoing, evolving project.
What is like to non-technical staff of your clients using this system that they get?
Well, it was fine for them because they have a different sort of brand manager per site. So we can give that person back-end access to each site individually, so their Dutch channel manager gets the back-end for the Dutch site only.
So you are the super admin and the
Exactly, we can set them up as admins on each site. So actually only we need to be super admins because we maintain the product and set up the sites for each client, but the client himself doesn't need to see the other sites or anything like that, so we can obviously control their access. And they found it easy as well. They were able to do things like go in and update text, add extra pages to the site and to the menus and things like that, because we're using all the core features of WordPress. We're using the standard sort of posts and pages set up, we're using the standard menu manager, all of that.
So it's as easy as in regular WordPress install?
Exactly. I mean, to them, it just looks like a normal WordPress install. And obviously with things like roles and responsibilities, we can decide which things they get access to. So we probably restrict access to things like themes and plugins. but we would give them access to users, pages, and so on.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And this is such an interesting case of building business with WordPress Multisite. So thank you very much for your interesting story, for this interview, for sharing your experience with us. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thanks for interviewing me.
It was nice to meet you and at WordCamp Brighton and to see you again here.
Yeah, likewise. All right, thanks very much.